Because a substantial proportion of COVID-19 transmission occurs from persons who are asymptomatic, it is critically important that all persons contribute to the common good and wear a mask.
Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Dallas, Houston, Atlanta, Durham, Baltimore, Philadelphia, Boston, Cleveland, Detroit, Cincinnati, Chicago, and Denver. All those metro areas had less per capita cases than we had in Douglas County. That should be a wake-up call for all of us.
The crisis has magnified the racial and ethnic economic disparities that I call healthcare injustice.
I'm also here to remind you of the words you used to campaign for your seats. I love Omaha. I care deeply for this community. Well, this mandate is about love and care for your city, so prove it.
This is an emergency. Let's get it under control. As a city, can we please come together at this time? This is not political. It does not have to be political. We can move this thing forward. We can move our city, our county, and our state forward, but you have to show the leadership at this time.
I've got other friends that are in assisted living. They can't leave. There's a lot of talk about freedom, and that's not fair that we keep dragging this out. We shouldn't. This can keep this thing from dragging out, so all these people aren't basically imprisoned in their own homes.
I am not a doctor or a scientist, so it's not my job to decide what's best for public health. But it's also not the job of politicians. Doctors, scientists, and health experts across the world are saying that wearing a mask is one of the best ways to slow the spread of this pandemic. Who are we to think we know any better than these doctors who have studied medicine for years?
And with everything in life, I try to ask this one simple question: what would Jesus do? And I believe in this time he would tell us, do not be afraid and love thy neighbor. Now, may I just say that this is the quintessential time to show our brothers and sisters in Christ that we love one another by wearing these masks.
My little boy and so many other kiddos who have health complications are the ones who are the most at risk. We need Omaha to be as safe as possible, and I strongly believe that a mask mandate will help us to get there. We will not defeat COVID through an individualistic mindset. It will take all of us collectively join together to put an end to this.
There's no invisible boundary keeping the virus out of certain areas. We should be looking at the big picture as one community headed towards the single-minded goal of dropping numbers.
I like the idea of mask resolution that the mayor put out, but I'm against a mandate. I think we all have a right to decide for ourselves.
If you walk into the bank with a mask on, they'd be calling the cops, but now I guess if you go in without a mask, you're going to be calling the cops. Putting out a mandate is kind of difficult to say that you're really leading. Then it's just making a rule because you can, and maybe it makes you feel important.
You still do not hold unlimited powers to infringe upon inalienable rights, such as to breathe fresh air, speak freely, and participate in public. We are not under threat of epidemic. We are under a government trying to replicate the threat of an epidemic. If there are people that are scared of the public, they must find alternative routes, not strip the rights of their neighbor. It is the government's job to protect our rights, not govern our health or everyday lives.
It will lower it, as the lockdown did lower it, but it will not lower it down to the point where it's gone. The virus is here to stay.
My name is Dr. Tapper. I am in private practice in Omaha, Nebraska. I don't wear a mask. I see over 200 patients a week. I come in close proximity with every patient that I come across. Why haven't I contracted this so-called disease?
It was January 31st, 2020, that the Secretary of Health and Human Services declared a public health emergency. You have had 6 months to prepare a properly researched ordinance. We do not need to use an emergency procedure today.
And what I see a mandate, a forced issue doing, is causing significant conflict among people, among individuals, at the stores, at their churches, out on the street. What a mandate will do is give people the presumed right to confront others.
And I'm concerned that most people do not understand completely how to use PPE effectively, and will actually cause more of a spread than what they're actually containing.
You are attempting to deprive me of my rights under color of law and are also committing an act of domestic terrorism by attempting to intimidate or coerce me to muzzle my 5- and 7-year-old sons.
When I was debating this on Facebook with friends, mind you, friends, and I explained to them my situation, that having something over my mouth causes trauma, you know what their response to me was? Figure it out and bleeping wear the mask. So bullying is real.
As a co-sponsor, I'm obviously in favor of this ordinance. It is a simple and practical thing we can all be doing to get our kids back to school safely and to continue our economic recovery. We are literally the only major city in the country without one.
My preference would be that we could accomplish this goal of wearing a mask without a mandate. This is the clunkiest way to go about doing what is being attempted here. And I want the people of Omaha to know too, is that if someone is not wearing a mask, I don't think you're not the one to determine whether or not they have to be wearing a mask. They have a reason that they're not wearing a mask.
So we're all going to disagree on our freedoms and whether or not the government should be doing this or not doing this. I agree. I don't think it should be a mandate. I completely agree with Governor Ricketts. But what Governor Ricketts has said over and over is, people, wear your masks. So I voluntarily wear one, and I have been voluntarily wearing one. I don't want the government to mandate it, because I'll voluntarily do it because it's the right thing to do.
What I'm afraid of, really, is if we don't slow the spread and bend the curve, and we have to close again, a couple of our districts are going to be devastated. Devastated. So I'm not in a position where I'm going to run the risk of devastation in my district. I'm not going to run the risk of telling our healthcare professionals and our other frontline workers that we don't care enough about them to support this.
And I don't want to look myself in the mirror and have to explain to someone else whose family member got this horrible disease, why didn't you do something, Chris? Why did you not act?